Chapter 2, GRU Headquarters, Moscow. Palyov folded and unfolded a corner of the report as he read. With two fingers of his other hand, he smoothed the patch on his forehead, as if trying to eliminate part of the network of creases that was ranged across it. The pendulous folds of skin under his eyes reminded Dima of the nose bags the cart horses wore in the winter on the farm where his mother once worked. The big empty desk should have been an indication of Palyov's status, but Dima thought it had the opposite effect. It made the chief of operational security look small and shriveled. The incident at the apartment was less than 2 hours old, but the hastily concocted document looked like it ran over 20 pages. Palyov appeared to be studying every word, frowning as he read. Dima offered him a summary. To save your valuable time, Director, it's simple. Went in, got the girl, kept the money, shot them all, the end. Vatsinov could have been a useful source. How? Palyov looked up from the report and glared. Dima hadn't expected this. Typical. You sort out a mess for these people, and then they suddenly decide they need someone who's already been stored in the big, chilled filing cabinet with a tag on his toe. Anyhow, they'd never have gotten anything out of this one. Did these people never learn? He laughed. If we chopped off his other ear, snipped off his damaged fingers one by one, you could have pruned every limb and his bollocks and served him up his own cock on a Bellini. He wouldn't have given you a thing. He's a Chechen, for God's sakes. And then there's the matter of my men. How do you explain that? Explain what? This was getting tiresome. Dima hadn't expected a medal in the massed ranks of the St. Petersburg Symphony, but couldn't Palyov at least pretend to sound grateful? I'm informed they were beaten up and an unprovoked attacked. Dima restrained himself with difficulty. Use your imagination. After these jokers brought me here, they'd have banged the girl and vanished with the money. You should congratulate me on purging your service of corrupt elements. Hadn't this occurred to him? He seemed to shrink further behind the desk. Dima glanced around the office. He hadn't previously been inside the GRU's new aquarium, opened by Putin himself in 2006, and thoughtfully placed within the side of the old one. No one was sure how it had gotten its nickname. You certainly couldn't see it, that was for sure. One theory was that it was the reputed birthplace of waterboarding. Either way, and despite this latest attempt to finesse the past, the old name had stuck. The presence of foreign furniture and new technology was striking. An Italian chair, Apple computers, on the wall a slightly bleached print of Natier's portrait of Peter the Great. And by the window, a plant that was actually alive. An agent repatriated after long years away might be forgiven for wondering which country he was in, but the frosted glass of the internal windows and the lingering hint of a pickled cabbage in the recycled air was a giveaway. Dima nodded at the fat file under Palyov's nose. If that really is a report on the incident, I congratulate your staff on their creative writing. The whole thing didn't last as long as it's taking you to read about it. Palyov didn't respond, looked down again, continued to read. Dima wished he had managed to stop for some breakfast after all. 6 dead, 2 in casualty, and it wasn't even 9:30. An armored GAZ SUV, at least that was Russian, and an official Audi, blue light flickering on the dash, had been waiting outside when they came out of the apartment block. 2 more goons jumped out of the Audi with a view to helping Kroll with the case. Kroll tried to dissuade them with a couple of punches, but they didn't get the message, so Dima had to slam them against the car a few times, and in the case of the one who grabbed Katya, shut his arm in the trunk. Dima had taken the SUV and delivered both Katya and the money to her grateful father. At least that was one satisfied customer. He'd urged Kroll to help himself to the Audi. It was top of the range. Heated seats, an integral Bose music system, even a cute little circle of beige leather on the end of the cigarette lighter. But Kroll said it was too loud for him, and besides, he said, disabling the tracker was a pain. It was still dark, so Dima had turned on the sirens and the blue lights had enjoyed a quick spin down the wrong side of the road. A metaphor for his whole life, now he came to think of it. He had thought of skipping the appointment with Palyov altogether, but a twinge of curiosity had prevailed. It had been so long since his former masters had come asking for him. It was a wonder they even remembered him. At the famed tank-proof barrier, a guard waved the GAZ through without even checking who was at the wheel. A shocking lapse in security. He parked it in a space reserved for the Deputy Secretary of Paperclips or some such. Only when he presented himself at the desk and saw the pained expression on the pretty receptionist's face did he hesitate. The parking space? He was just preparing a snappy excuse when she nodded slowly towards a floor-to-ceiling mirror. His face was still peppered with a fine spray of blood from one of the exploding goons, the first lot. Sorry, he said. Busy morning. She reached into her bag and produced a packet of baby wipes. He smiled. Bet they come in handy. Every day. There was a mischievous look in her large dark eyes. On my twins. For a fleeting moment he wondered whether she meant the pair of delicious breasts straining against the cotton of her shirt. Now he had another incentive to miss the important. A quick fuck over the desk would have more than made up for the missed breakfast. He had dabbed his face and held the wipe up in tribute as he walked towards the lift. Palyav finished reading, took off his spectacles, and rubbed his eyelids with his thumb and forefinger as if he was trying to make what he had just read go away. Then he turned to Dima and shook his head. How much did Bolganov pay you? It was a favor, for old times' sake. Ah, old times. There was a mournful, faraway look in Palyav's eyes as if he was recalling his first fuck, which may well have preceded the siege of Leningrad, if not the revolution itself. The good old days. Must get together sometime and reminisce over a few bottles. Another man entered without knocking, slim, wiry, top frame, early 40s, tailored English shoe. Palyav made a move to rise, but the suit waved him down. Carry on, don't mind me. Dima recognized Timofeyev, Secretary of Defense and Security, Palyav's political master. He lunged forward and shook Dima's hand, a Taghuer watch sliding into view as his cuff moved back. Timofeyev was one of the new breed of Apaches on whom Western accessories looked almost normal. So good of you to come. I hope we haven't taken you away from other assignments. Only breakfast. Palyav winced, but Timofeyev laughed heartily like a good politician, which caused Palyav's face to move unnaturally as he tried to force a smile in response. In fact, Secretary, Dima Makievsky is not currently on or... Ah, a freelance, Timofeyev cut in, pronouncing the English word without a trace of an accent. Are you familiar with that term? Dima replied in English. Yes, Secretary. A man without allegiances, without loyalty. Would you say that describes you, Makievsky? The former only, said Dima, rather too pointedly for Palyav's comfort. He receded further into his seat. Timofeyev looked Dima up and down. So, Palyav, tell me about your freelance. Impress me with his credentials. Timofeyev settled himself on the edge of the huge desk and folded his arms. Palyav took in a deep, wheezy breath. Born in Moscow, father a career soldier, mother the daughter of a French communist tradesunionist, driven into exile by de Gaulle, graduated first class from Sevar Military School. Youngest of his years, Spetsnaz intake, which did not seem to hinder him from coming top in most of the subjects and disciplines. First posting Paris, where he perfected his English throughout contact with the American expatriate student community and infiltrated the French Interior Ministry with the help of a charming young... Dima gave Palyav a look. He coughed. Subsequently transferred to Iran as instructor to the Revolutionary Guard. Timofeyev roared with laughter, exposing expensive dental work. Promotion or punishment? Dima let his face go blank. Both. My station chief turned out to be working for the British. I executed him. You could say the posting was a reward for showing initiative. Timofeyev hadn't finished laughing, but there was a cold gleam in his eyes. Ah, don't you miss the old days? Palyav pressed on. After an undercover assignment in the Balkans, he advanced to Afghanistan, where he was responsible for developing a close rapport with Mujahideen warlords. Timofeyev was still giggling, like a battery-operated toy that wouldn't switch off. All the choicest jobs. You must have made a real nuisance of yourself, Makievsky. A shudder from Palyav, followed by an exchange of looks between the two Apacheriks. Then a silence, which Dima didn't like the sound of. A silence while they remembered Solomon, the one who got away. Dima wasn't going to rise to it. I accept all assignments in the spirit in which they were given. Like a true hero, I'm sure. And then? What excuse did they find to pension you off? Don't tell me. Too much initiative? Too creative? Or did they suddenly uncover some unpatriotic tendencies? Timofeyev turned and glared at his head of state security, as if Dima's departure from Spetsnaz had been Palyav's doing. Palyav's round shoulders slumped further under the burden of his superior's disapproval. In fact, Secretary, Comrade Maevsky was awarded both the Order of Nevsky and the Order of St. Andrew. Timofeyev cut in, for exceptional services leading to the prosperity and glory of Russia. Though probably not the prosperity of Comrade Maevsky, eh, Dima? I did all right. But still a tall poppy nonetheless. My predecessors had a fatal tendency to be suspicious of excellence. Mediocrity was their watchword. Timofeyev swept his hand through the air, like Thrasybulus, who advised Periander to take off the tallest stalks, indicating thereby that it was necessary to do away with the most eminent citizens. He turned to Palyav, who looked blank. Aristotle, said Dima. But Timofeyev was warning to his theme. You were too good, my dear Makievsky, and you paid for it. It's a credit to your patriotism and that you didn't go west in search of better terms and conditions. He put his face close to Dima's. His breath was mint fresh with a hint of garlic. Dima's desire for breakfast evaporated. How would you like a real reward? He squeezed Dima's shoulder, eyes blazing. You'll find our terms are much improved these days. Entirely competitive with the best private security outfits. Your chance to get that Lexus, with a nice little hunting lodge you promise yourself. Somewhere comfortable and private to take the ladies. Jacuzzis, satellite porn, roaring log fire. Both of them looked at Dima, who showed no reaction. Eventually, Palyav gave a short cough. It may well be, Secretary, that Makievsky is not motivated by remunerative compensation. Timofeyev nodded. Fine sentiments, rare in our brave new Russia. He got up and paced over to Peter the Great, his handmade shoes squeaking very lightly. For a chance to serve, then. He seemed to be addressing the woman in the golden dress. He wheeled around and fixed his eyes on Dima. Your chance not only to serve your country, but to save it. The words failed to have the desired effect. The suits could never believe it, but persuasion seldom worked with him. If anything, it had the opposite effect. He had heard it all before, too many opportunities for glory, and rewards sold to him in the past had turned to shit. His stomach rumbled as if by way of response. Timofeyev strode over to the window and jutted his chin at the view. Did you know that on the Kajanka field there, Rosnitsky became the first Russian to fly an airplane? In 1910. And Tsar Nicholas II had his coronation there? In 1886. He wheeled round. You see, Dima, you can't help yourself. You're a Russian, through and through. 1,200 were killed in the stampede. They say their patriotic fervor got the better of them. Timofeyev didn't pretend he didn't heard. He strode back over to Dima and put a hand on each arm of the chair. Come back to us for one last mission. We need a genuine patriot, one with your skills and experience and commitment. He glanced at Palyav. We could even overlook the matter of the operatives this morning. New furniture, new computer, same old threats. Your country needs you to get your bollock shot off, if you wouldn't mind. Your choice, naturally, though. If you say no, we have ways of making you change your mind. What the hell was he doing listening to this crap when he could have been at Katrina's kitchen eating pancakes with Georgian cherry jam, or better still, screwing the receptionist whose fiery red hair framed a perfect white skin and delicious vision of purity with the promise of some very sluttish behavior to come? Why not both? He'd done his bit and deserved to enjoy himself for a couple of days, for good. Yet in some obscure part of his brain, a small pulse of curiosity was beating. Dima got to his feet and glanced at his watch, which still had a small smear of blood on the face, turning the 12 into a shape very slightly like a heart. He gestured at the frosted glass and the ghostly shapes of minions moving about in the outer office. You have a whole army here, out there, young fit men and women jockeying for a chance at the big time, desperate to climb the career ladder. Whatever it is, the answer's no. You retired me. I'm staying that way. Besides, I'm hungry. Good day, gentlemen. He marched out. For a few seconds, neither of them moved. Then Palyav gave his master an I told you so look and reached for the phone. Timofeyev put his hand down on top of the old man. Let him go. Forget about your casualties, but find something to make him agree. He's immune. Nobody's immune. There must be something. Find it. Today.